Okay, we are live again. Guys, let me know if this is working this time. We just had a little bit of a tech issue with some buffering, etc. here on the Trish Regan Show. We don't like those little tech issues, but thankfully I have a very loyal, reliable community of all of you that are willing to tell me what's what and what's up. So hopefully now we're good, because you know what? We have a very, very big show ahead. Good morning to all of you guys. Peace of my mind. I see you. Dan, good to see you. Jean, everybody. Yeah, we're a little bit earlier than normal today, but we, at least we work through our tech snafu, because listen, there's some big stuff going on. Very, very big stuff going on. Have you heard of the burn book? Remember from that movie Mean Girls? Well, I don't know if you guys ever saw it, but Lindsay Lohan. Well, this is now the burn bag. So Kash Patel is talking about having found thousands of documents in these burn bags in a secret room in the Hoover Building at the FBI. And it's like, wow. I mean, so apparently there was some whistleblower that really did want them to have this information, thank goodness. And somehow he gets tipped off and some of this stuff was saved. And I think we're about to learn a lot. So we're going to talk about that, some of his initial comments, the Fox News reporting. I know the reporter very well who covered this and broke the story. She's excellent. I can't say enough good things about her. She breaks news all the time and she's very, very well sourced. I'm hearing from sources that it is related to the Chuck Grassley investigation that was going on. And so they're turning all of this stuff over to Chuck Grassley. The other thing we got to talk about is what the penalties are going to be, because we want accountability. Do we not? I'm sorry. I'm not a vengeful person, but I think the reality is you got to create an atmosphere where this kind of stuff can never, ever, ever happen again. And so the president himself is kind of out for blood. I mean, I think he'd like to see Obama go down. Not sure that's going to happen, only because of some of the legal issues that even our own President Trump went through on that front. But I'll tell you who's fair game. Brennan, Comey, Clapper, all of them. I mean, heck, there's a reason why Peter Strzok, of Lisa Page fame, decided to take down all his tweets on X. There's a reason for all of it. There's a reason. Clapper is lawyering up as we speak. We're going to get into that. Meanwhile, oh, it goes from bad to worse for the Democrats. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. You guys just have really bad luck. But it's your own doing. What do they say? You make your own luck. Yeah, well, the Democrats have the bad luck of having Kamala Harris, who wants to come back for second. She's talking about 2028. She said she's not going to run for governor of California. No, she has her eyes set on the bigger stage. She's got a bigger sight in mind. So might she be returning in 28? I say, you know what? Bring it on. We'll take her all day long. Good to have you here on the show. Thank you for all that you guys do. I'm telling you, we are climbing, and it is thanks to your commitment and your willingness to occasionally help me out in moments like we just went through. I'm glad the Wi-Fi is back up and running, because it's an important day. Kash Patel and his burn bags. Now, what the heck is a burn bag? We're going to get to that in a second, but let's just say, suffice it to say, Kash has a lot of them, like thousands of documents that he has found inside the Hoover Building in these so-called burn bags. And this is all related to, remember, drum roll please, Crossfire Hurricane. Crossfire Hurricane, which is an investigation that I consider to be tremendously important, an investigation that, frankly, I lived through, right? We were going through all this on the front lines. We had to go through Russia, the dossier. Oh my gosh, poor George Papadopoulos, who is a friend of mine who was targeted multiple times by the Comey operation. Comey thought it was kind of funny. They went after everyone that they could. Carter Page getting spied upon during the campaign from Trump Tower. I'll never forget how angry Trump was over that. I mean, it just went on and on and on and on. It turns out it was all concocted stuff. Why? One, they wanted to spy on the campaign. And two, once he got in there, once they realized the American people actually wanted Donald Trump, you know who? That would be Barack Obama. He couldn't take it. I mean, his poor ego, not to mention Hillary Clinton's ego. I mean, they're like, what the heck happened? How did this guy come out of nowhere and suddenly steal it from us? Oh, it must have been the Russians. Except it wasn't. It wasn't the Russians. And this is what is coming out. Patel has found thousands of sensitive Trump-Russia probe documents right inside those burn bags, inside the Hoover Building, inside FBI headquarters, secret room on top of it all. He talked about this actually on Joe Rogan's show. I want to play you a brief clip. Listen.
Me, as the director of the FBI, the former Russiagate guy, when I first got to the Bureau, found a room that Comey and others hid from the world in the Hoover Building, full of documents and computer hard drives that no one had ever seen or heard of. Locked the key and hid access and just said, no one's ever going to find this place.
What?
Yeah. So my guys are going through that right now.
Yep.
What's in there?
A lot of stuff. I mean, that's the thing. People are like, well, okay, go arrest him. And I'm like, okay, well, how about you let me run a methodical investigation?
Yeah, I mean, you gotta do that, right? Like, you can't just go out and arrest everybody. And I know everybody wants that, by the way. And I'm just gonna say, I'm anxious for that too, but I'm also a patient person and I want this to be done right. So they've just found these documents. You've got to go through them. You've got to see what's there. We saw 114 pages from Tulsi the other day, plus she came forward with more. What did we learn? Well, we learned, for one thing, that Putin had a whole bunch of intel that never got released on Hillary Clinton. I mean, now it makes sense when you saw that she was so unsteady getting into the car at times, when she'd laugh hysterically, when she seemed to have this raging like temper. It all kind of makes sense, especially when you see the intel that the Russians had on her. They were never going to allow that out. Instead, they fed the American public a whole bunch of garbage. And so he's not there saying, and in fact, he told Joe, he's like, look, you know, I was super surprised. I mean, because think about it. I was the former Russiagate guy. Don't forget, he was investigating all of this stuff when he was there first time around, Kash Patel. And he wanted all this information so much so that even after the election, you'll recall that Donald Trump sued Hillary Clinton and he sued the whole Obama team to try and get some of this information on Russiagate, or Crossfire Hurricane, which we're now calling it. And the whole idea, if you talk to Kash at the time, was that they wanted the discovery. They wanted to be able to get the evidence. They wanted to know what was there. And now, ladies and gentlemen, bum, 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 drum roll, please, they have it. They have it. And they have it in thousands of bags. They have what Tulsi was able to bring forward the other day. And this is a big deal. This is a big, big deal. And it's good that they have it, and it's good that somebody hung on to this stuff. I'm surprised it wasn't all put through the paper shredder, right? The burn bag, as they call it. You know, I didn't really know what a burn bag was. I'm thinking burn book from Mean Girls. You know, I got daughters. The Lindsay Lohan movie. It's funny. It's cute. Anyway, yeah, so I'm like, burn bag. But that's apparently a term that's used in the intel community. I don't know how familiar President Trump was with the term. He was asked about it. He's like, what are you talking about? Yesterday afternoon, I want to play you a quick clip. Here we go.
Kash Patel reportedly found burn bags of Russian.
She's like, what are the burn bags that the Russians had?
You said what?
Say what?
Materials.
I don't know that. I don't know what you mean by that statement. Say it.
Bags full of Russiagate
A
documents.
burn bag. I thought you said appointed a man named burn bag.
Okay, so he said, I thought you meant as somebody appointed, a guy named Burnbag. He went on to say in that same conversation, well, obviously it should all come out. Everything should come out. We should know everything we possibly can, right? We deserve to know it. In fact, believe me, he wants some accountability. He's putting this stuff out. Do you see his, oh, this is Truth Social. We got one on each side here. He writes in one of them, until this happens, meaning everybody behind bars, nothing will change. He also says in one of them, it is time to indict Obama, the traitor, for treason. Okay, so he is out for blood. I can tell you, this is a very different Donald Trump than the first time around. I know him well. I repeatedly asked him during the first term, you know, President Trump, why not go after Hillary Clinton for all of this? And he was like, you know, I don't want to do that. I really don't want to do that. Like, that feels very Banana Republic-like to me. We don't do that kind of thing in America. She was married to a former president. She ran for the presidency. You know, he kind of just wanted to move on. But the problem is, he tried to move on, and he couldn't move on. He couldn't move on because they did their Russia thing, and they get their dossier, and they made a whole bunch of stuff up, as we are now for sure learning. And so as a result of that, yeah, he's coming back, and he's saying, if not for me, for everybody else, for the future of this country, you cannot do this kind of stuff. You just can't. So if you're asking, by the way, what the heck a burn bag is, like I was, it's something that Glenn Beck was curious about as well. Let's go to his soundbite with Tulsi Gabbard here, who explains it. Listen in, Tulsi, on what a burn bag is and why this is so significant right now in this point in time.
The wrong hands, that there's not Fox News had an exclusive that said Kash Patel found thousands of sensitive documents related to the origins of the Trump-Russia probe buried in multiple burn bags in secret rooms inside the Bureau. What's a burn bag?
A burn bag is something that you'll find in many offices throughout the intelligence community, throughout these different workspaces in national security. Basically, if I have a document that's highly classified, I read it, I review it, I'm done with it. My copy can then go in the burn bag to make sure that it's not doesn't end up in the wrong hands, that there's not an unauthorized disclosure of classified information. It's a very different story, however, if you use a burn bag to try to get rid of evidence of which maybe there is only one copy of, and then hide it in a secret room in the FBI. That is a tactic, obviously, that has been used by those deep staters, these bad actors within the intelligence community to try to get rid of evidence. Another tactic that's often used is over-classifying information. This is what happened with the Steele dossier. This was already widely publicized as a discredited document. But what John Brennan did and James Clapper did as the CIA director and the Obama's director of national intelligence, they didn't want anybody to know that they used the Steele dossier as a source for this intelligence assessment that was filled with falsehoods they published in January of 2017, as well as other really, really shoddy intelligence sources that would not be acceptable to be used on any topic because they were not deemed credible. They wanted to hide all of this from members of Congress, perhaps, who were reading this, and the American people, and President Trump, then President-elect Trump at that time. And so they over-classified it in a way that there were less than 10 people who could access it. Jeez. And then they locked up the only hard copy documents. This document did not exist on digits. The document that actually exposed, this was the document that we released. Right. They locked that document up and the 5 copies that existed in a safe. And the first time it had been seen, certainly in public, but even by many within the government, was when we released it about a week ago.
Wow, 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 wow. Thanks to Glenn for that over at Blaze. So, I'm going to tell you something. I love my country. I love my country dearly. And I actually have a ton of faith, or used to anyway, in my country. I mean, it's being restored as we speak. But what I've learned over the last 8 years has actually been so cutting and so disturbing. And I'm thinking about Dan's tweet the other day, Dan Bongino. I know we thought he was talking about something else. But I think he was actually in some ways talking about this, because you can't actually run a republic, as he said, with this kind of stuff going on. You can't be locking away documents and throwing away the key. You can't be trying to bury things. You can't be trying to concoct things. I almost feel like this was something that came out of the Ben Rhodes era during Obama. Remember Ben Rhodes, who was his number 2 there, his enforcer, if you would, who had this idea. If you just kept repeating a story enough among the reporting circle, the reporting elites, that somehow it would be reinforced and people would actually start to believe it. You start to believe your own BS because you just keep telling it to this one and that one. And all of a sudden there's this circle of information where, oh, I heard that. And then you heard that. And this is partly what they were doing, of course, with the dossier. I read the dossier, guys, okay? Because this was out there. And I was like, well, this is a bunch of garbage. For goodness sakes, this is not any kind of intel. Are you kidding me? There's no way. There's no how. And by the way, why doesn't anybody in our intelligence department decide to actually source any of it? What would I do as a journalist? I get something like that. One, I want to know where it came from. Oh, Hillary Clinton's campaign. There you go. That's all you need to know, okay? So you got to understand the bias, first of all. Second of all, not only do you need to know where it came from, you got to actually then go forward and do your own due diligence to see if it's even true. But nobody did that. Instead, they used that to get a FISA warrant on Carter Page. They used that as a reason to say, okay, well, we're going to try and bump all these people on the Trump campaign. George Papadopoulos being one of them. I mean, this kind of stuff was just bad, right? And then they took it further. Before you knew it, after Donald Trump won, they had on December 8th in the Oval Office, according to new documents put forward by Tulsi Gabbard just last week, they assembled their team and they got together an Intel community directive, even though people in the Intel community had said to them, this probably didn't quite happen. The Russians weren't actually able to interfere the way you guys would like to think that they interfered. But nope, that didn't matter. Truth didn't matter, you see, because they wanted a narrative. And they took that narrative and they took it and they played it and they played it and they played it over and over and over again, like Rhodes told them to, right? The enforcer for Obama. He ought to be asked to talk in front of Congress. I want all these people testifying, every stinking last one of them. You got it? Because I had to sit there like you and listen to this and say, what the heck are they doing?
Trump didn't actually win the election in 2016. He lost the election, and he was put into office because the Russians interfered.
Trump knows he's an illegitimate president.
The president-elect, although legally elected, is not legitimate.
I don't see this president-elect as a legitimate president.
You said you believe that Russia's interference altered the outcome of the election.
I do. We have a president who, if in fact it is proven, has been assisted by the Russians and may in fact not be a legitimate president.
The one thing that Trump is fearful of when it comes to his being president is that finally we will see how illegitimate his victory actually was.
I have an objection.
I object to the 15 votes from the state of North Carolina. I object because people are horrified.
He's an illegitimate president.
Oh, you guys are just disgusting human beings willing to trash our country for the sake of your own damn power. That's what that was. Okay? There's actually 24 minutes of it. There's a 10-minute clip, and there's a 24-minute clip. One of you guys was asking me about it in the comments. I read all the comments, by the way, and I actually sent you the link on Twitter to at least the 10-minute clip. There's a 24-minute one, too, for those of you that really want to indulge in it. I mean, it just makes me sick. It makes me too angry. As we say, I get my Irish up. And I'm going to move on from the Democrats doing that. But my point is only that we can't forget that they did that. We can't forget that they sold us a bunch of lies. And to Donald Trump, the president of the United States, now point, he's looking at maybe indicting Obama. He's calling it treason. I'll tell you who else is calling it treason. None other than Tulsi Gabbard. Because to her, it's treasonous that you would actually want to undermine the will of the United States people. I mean, they elected him. Why can't you let him hit the ground running? Why do you have to tear him down? Oh, because you don't like that he won. You are jealous that he won. You have such a big frickin' ego for a skinny guy, Obama, that you can't take it. And Hillary Clinton, well, I've never gotten her. I mean, who the heck would ever stay married to Bill under the circumstances? But she's her own special version of special. And so he's saying, none of this is going to change until these people face that accountability. And I've told you before that I've spoken to him about this. I mean, why didn't you do it first time around, Mr. President? And he's like, look, she was married to a former president of the United States. I ran against her. I don't want to be like a banana republic. Nobody wants us to be that. Like I said, I had faith in my country up until the last few years where I realized what they were willing to do. You know what they were willing to do. We all saw it in real time, for goodness sakes. Well, now we're going to get some accountability. You better believe it. There's going to be some heads that roll. I have no doubt the indictments are coming. Kash Patel going through those burn bags as we speak with his team, and something's going to give. Tulsi wants it. John Radcliffe from the CIA wants it. Kash Patel from the FBI wants it. Dan Bongino, also at FBI, wants it. And the President of the United States of America, Donald Trump, wants it. Listen to John Radcliffe here.
So what I think I hear you saying is there is still an opportunity for indictments, potential prosecutions, accountability from those people who may have lied under oath, like John Brennan, James Comey, and perhaps Hillary Clinton.
Well, that's why I've made the referrals that I have. DNI Gabbard has made referrals, and why we're going to continue to share the intelligence that would support the ability of our Department of Justice to make bring fair and just claims against those who have perpetrated this hoax against the American people and this stain on our country.
Director, one other question on this. Tulsi, as well as President Trump, used the word
treason was what she went on to say. Tulsi used the word treason. President Trump has used the word treason. Because when you are trying to do everything you can to set back a president that the American people elected, I mean, is that not some version of treason? Again, get over your politics, people. You lost, okay? Be a good sport. Move on. Try to find areas where you can work together for the sake of the country, for the sake of the economy, for the sake of our national security. And yet nobody was willing to do that because they all had some you-know-what up there, you-know-what's, because it was Donald Trump, okay? And, we never heard about all the intel that they'd been collecting on Hillary Clinton. Oh, yeah. So, if I'm just saying, if Putin really wanted to take her down, you don't think he would have gone with the internal claims? Courtesy of page 17, thanks to Tulsi, of the Russian intel that Hillary was on, quote, heavily tranquilizers and suffering, quote, intensified psycho-emotional problems, that there was evidence of severe health issues. I mean, I'm just saying, if the Russians really, really wanted to make her life difficult, I think they certainly could have in a bigger way. But what we've learned is they didn't really care who necessarily won anything. They just kind of wanted to play with us. And play with us they did. Indeed, they did, because, heck, it didn't take much. Obama was willing to play all day long. This was his game, right? He was willing, he did Putin's job for him. That's the tragedy of all of this. Severe tragedy. You know what? Obama and his team, they're all panicking right now. And you know what? That's good. They deserve everything they're going to be getting. Peter Strzok of Lisa Page fame, right? Peter and Lisa, the dynamic duo. He was the one who said to her, his heartthrob at the time, I mean, I think they both were married, something to the effect of, well, he's not really going to win. And he said to her, oh no, we're not going to let it. They're going to control this? Peter Strzok has just gone through and deleted all of his social media messages. Meanwhile, I want to play you a little clip from 2020 of the guy that used to have Tulsi's job. Tulsi, who they also, by the way, accused of being a Russian spy, because you see, she was a competitor to Hillary Clinton, and Hillary's got some sharp elbows. Don't you come near me. I mean, hey, you can have my guy any day of the week. Monica, fine, I'll stay married. But don't come near me on the political podium. Tulsi, you dare, I'm going to label you a Russian spy, which is exactly what they did. Think about that. A woman who had fought and risked her life for our country. That's what Hillary's team did to her. Well, here is Clapper, who used to have Tulsi's job. I want to take you back to 2020, and then we're going to see what he's saying now. Here he is, lying, and lying some more.
Obama. So, Director, a bunch of questions from this. Let me just start with this. How much does the source matter, right? So you hear the story of this laptop. We don't know a lot. We do know that the way that this information is getting out is through Steve Bannon and Rudy Giuliani. How much does the source matter here?
Well, source matters a lot, and the timing matters a lot, I think. And to me, this is just classic textbook Soviet-Russian tradecraft at work. The Russians have analyzed the target. They understand that the president and his enablers crave dirt on Vice President Biden, whether it's real or contrived, it doesn't matter to them. And so all of a sudden, two and a half weeks before the election, this laptop appears somehow and emails on it without any metadata. It's all very curious. But so here you have a willing target, and the Russians, who are very sophisticated about how to exploit a willing target. And to me, that's what's at work here.
And so, when you try to figure out the specifics of, whether that meeting email, for example, is real in the midst of this, do you think stuff like that could just have been planted in there and be completely fake? I do. I think the emails could be contrived, particularly since, as I understand it from what I've read, they appear without any metadata. That is, from, to, and any technical data
at least immediately evident. Now, if this computer is in the hands of the FBI, they have obviously excellent, sophisticated technical and forensic analytic capabilities, and I think they'll be able to sort it out, whether this is genuine or not. But, you know, it's all pretty curious, given, again, 2.5 weeks out from the election.
Woo! Okay, so he's calling it classic Russian stagecraft. And yet, you guys, you know what he knew? You know what the FBI knew the entire time? That it was actually all legit. So think about that. They're trying to say, oh, you know, because it was Steve Bannon and Rudy Giuliani and that somehow none of it was real, and that Hunter Biden, well, you know, he's a real stand-up guy, right? Whatever. That it wasn't his laptop. And yet, oh, you better believe it was his laptop. I mean, think about it. The New York Post, one of the oldest newspapers in the country, founded by Alexander Hamilton, gets its Twitter account shut down because this team was like, how dare you, how dare you, how dare you, how dare you. And they had CNN and the New York Times and the Washington Post and everybody else, NBC, MSNBC in their back pocket. And so they thought they had all the credibility. So he was out there lying through his teeth, knowing that he's lying. I mean, don't forget the 51X spooks that signed off to this whole thing. And now, what do you know? The chickens are coming home to roost, and he is having to lawyer up. You better believe he is.
When the director says that she's referred these filings to the Justice Department for a criminal investigation, tonight we're told they formed what is called a strike force. Do you have concerns that they will attempt to prosecute you?
Well, certainly I do. You know, after 8.5 years of this, and I don't know of an intelligence product that was more scrutinized, more investigated than that product was by numerous people.
Right, except that you guys hid everything, because it is not until now that we're finding the burn bags with thousands of documents in the hidden room at the Hoover Building.
You know, it's very disconcerting. It really is. And I take seriously when the President of the United States accuses me of being a participant in a treasonous conspiracy, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, what's your reaction to that?
It's ridiculous. It is untrue.
So I'm sorry. Again, I just heard you. We got this little thing called tape. What do you know? We can actually go and see what you said in 2020. We just saw what you said in 2020. You said that it was just classic Russian stagecraft. That's what the Hunter Biden laptop was. I mean, you had 51 of you all signing on saying it was bogus, all while you knew the FBI was investigating him and that laptop. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable. And they just lied. And, you know, he seems really credible, and he's older, and he seems, you know, he kind of looks the part, right? So you're like, hang on, like, who's right, who's wrong? I'll tell you, the American public figured it out.
What is your plan?
Well, I'll lawyer up, I suppose. Already have.
You've already hired attorneys in case of, in anticipation that this Trump Justice Department could try to prosecute you.
We've had sort of perpetual attorneys since I left the government in 2017.
Yeah, you better keep those attorneys on speed dial, because they're coming after you for everything they possibly can. This is a real investigation. Pam Bondi wants indictments. Everyone wants indictments, if for no other reason than to ensure that this kind of stuff never, ever happens again. I want you to hear Senator Rand Paul, who's out for blood himself. Here he is speaking with my former colleague, Jesse Waters, on Fox. Listen.
Is an exchange between the CIA analyst and Brennan. And one CIA analyst says that this is nothing more than opposition research. It's unverified. And Brennan's sort of flippant response is, yeah, but doesn't it really ring true? Doesn't really sound like it could be true. And so that's sort of the flippant nature he had, and an indication that even in his handpicked analysts, he picked the analysts that would ultimately be with him, you know, to create this narrative. And yet he lied to Congress. I think without question they can get him on lying to Congress. But this really was a cabal. I mean, I can even remember the stories from the time, contemporaneous stories saying, well, yeah, we're going to spread this information throughout government so the Trump people can't destroy it when they come in. But people didn't really know at the time that the information was from the Clinton campaign, or the public didn't know that. The people within John Brennan knew this. But, you know, at the time, Brennan's nomination came up. I was the only one in the Senate to oppose it. I actually filibustered for 13 hours against John Brennan. So I've known from the beginning that he was a scoundrel. And yes, he should be prosecuted. I think there's enough evidence in here.
Do you hear that? He's a scoundrel. He should be prosecuted, and there's enough evidence in here. Unbelievable. I mean, like, it's sad. It's sad. You don't want to think that your government does this. This is straight out of Latin America or some crazy emerging market in Africa or God knows where. This is not what we do as Americans, okay? I get it. You know what? It's a tough fight, but at some point somebody wins, just like in any good game, right? And you're a good sportsman. And you shake hands and you move on. And that's how our government is supposed to work. Unless, of course, you're Barack Obama and you just can't take the fact that Donald Trump, your nemesis, is the one that took you down. Hillary couldn't pull it off after all, and she's got her own ego challenges to worry about. And so you feed a narrative over and over and over and over again to the dumb, stupid, idiotic media that cannot think for itself, as Don Lemon so clearly proved over and over again over on CNN.
May be the biggest lie of all, repeatedly and with no facts to back him up, making the outrageous claim that the so-called deep state spied on his campaign. He did it again today.
But I hope it's not true, but it looks like it is.
It's not true. It's a lie.
No, it wasn't. You're lying. And you're too stupid to have done any of your own research to have figured out anything other than what you were being spoon-fed by the deep state narratives that were trying to flood the airwaves, okay? Like, that's what's so wrong with these people. They never stop to think about who's the source and how can I check independently to make sure this is true.
Did the intelligence community spy on President Trump and his campaign?
No, we did not.
This is not just
yes, you did.
Just an angry president popping off. This is a deliberate and coordinated effort to save his presidency, to cast doubt on the Russia investigation by repeating a lie, repeating it every chance he gets. And that repetition is a key part of the strategy here, because if you hear him say the same thing over and over and over.
Yeah. Okay, let's fast forward to the president.
A new report accusing President Obama's CIA of curating the 2016 Russia collusion hoax by asking foreign intelligence agencies to illegally spy on the Trump campaign.
John Brennan had identified 26 Trump associates for the Five Eyes to target. A source confirmed that the IC had identified them as people to bump or make contact with or manipulate. They were targets of our own IC and law enforcement, targets for collection and misinformation.
You know, you think about this, and I know that they're panicking right now. I know they're really terrified. And I think about just the role of the media and all of it, obviously something that's really important to me as a member of the media and as somebody who's been on that other side of things and seen how it all plays out and the hysteria that was there, that was clearly coming from up high. Brennan Carr, who's head of Trump's FCC, recently brought this up. He said what was amazing about Trump is he was actually able to break through all of that legacy media narrative that was trying to tear him down at every single turn. And he was able to speak directly to the American people. I mean, a lot of what we're able to do here on the show. Thank you guys. Make sure you subscribe, share, like. But let me play you this sound. Here he is speaking with my friend Rob over on Newsmax. Let's take a quick listen.
Yeah, something really significant is happening right here. And it goes back to President Trump. When he ran for office again, he ran directly at these legacy national broadcasters. And for years, people cowed down to the executives behind these companies based in Hollywood, in New York. And they just accepted that these national broadcasters could dictate how people think about topics, that they could set the narrative for the country. And President Trump fundamentally rejected it. He smashed the facade that these are gatekeepers that can determine what people think. And everything that we're seeing right now flows from that decision by President Trump, and he's winning. I mean, look, PBS has been defunded. NPR has been defunded. CBS is committing to restoring fact-based journalism. And you see it, everything from, Joy Reid is gone at MSNBC. All these things aren't isolated pinpricks. They go back to this emperor has no clothes moment where President Trump stood up to these legacy media gatekeepers, and now their business models are falling apart.
Yeah, and that's a good thing, right? So now the question becomes, not only is the media falling apart as we knew it, and their business models, right, are being sacrificed in part because of this new world in which we live. Thank you very much. And it's great to be over here. And as we approach 1 million subs, I would just also say that the director of the CIA calling for these indictments of Brennan, Comey, Hillary, for Gabbard to want Obama's head on a platter, as does Donald Trump. I mean, this is very serious stuff. And to her point, you know what, you need to believe, right, in America and in the system, and you need to have some faith and trust in institutions. And if you don't have that, we don't have much of a country. And so it's really critical that that faith be restored for the sake of all parties. Here she is, Tulsi Gabbard.
Delivered a historic victory to President Trump, defeating Hillary Clinton. And President Obama and his team, their goal was to essentially not accept the decision of the American people and to use this manufactured, politicized intelligence as a means to enact what would become essentially a years-long coup against President Trump. You have gone into great detail over these years of what the effects of this document and this decision have resulted in. Obviously, a years-long Mueller investigation that cost taxpayers almost $40 million, 2 congressional impeachments, endless smears and attacks against not only President Trump, but his family. He had senior members of his team who were investigated, some arrested and jailed. We had heightened and increased tensions between the United States and Russia. The list goes on and on about the consequences of President Obama and his senior cabinet members politicizing intelligence once again, and I say these words very clearly, to enact what was essentially a years-long coup, subverting the will of the American people.
Okay, so those are strong words. A coup. Again, it feels very Banana Republic-esque. Why were they doing this? Because they couldn't take that he had won. And so they were trying to convince everyone that he was some kind of Manchurian candidate. We have more coming up. But first, a quick shout out for our great sponsor. One of our great sponsors here on the Trish Regan Show, Balance in Nature. Code word Trish, TRISH, for 35% off. You can give them a ring as well. I'm going to put the number in the show link, but it's 1-800-246-8751, 1-800-246-8751. You know, it's a great company. They'll help you'll feel better, right? Because, you know, you're taking your vitamins. You got to drink a lot of water and get your exercise and hopefully eat right. Try to take your fruits and veggies, or eat your fruits and veggies, but if you can't eat them every day, get these, because you can, you know, find another form of it. I take the fruits and veggies. I like them very much, and I take them every day, and they're really good and healthy for you, and it helps me with my vitamin D and a few other things. I encourage you to go look at this company. Really, really, really great stuff, and a wonderful supporter of the show, and we thank them for all they do here on the Trish Regan Show. You can help support them and us, and yourself, importantly yourself, by going and checking out balanceinnature.com using my code word Trish, TRISH, for 35% off, plus free shipping, plus a free money-back guarantee. No harm, no foul. You don't like it, no harm done. You can return it for full money back. But it's balanceofnature.com. And you think about all those ingredients, right, that go into everything, it seems, these days, that RFK Jr. is working really hard to get rid of. Heck, you know, we may not even have sugar in Coca-Cola before it's all said and done. No more corn syrup, right? They're looking for cane sugar instead. Healthier stuff. Anyway, these guys have been about that for a whole long time. So I do encourage you to take a look at balanceofnature.com. But I'm watching here what's happening in real time. And I got to tell you, I am thrilled that people are being called out, and it looks like accountability is coming. And I know everybody's nervous and they're saying nothing's going to happen. I don't think you're right on that. I think on this, we are actually going to see some heads roll. As for Biden and, you know, being out of it for 4 years as president and people knowing, I'm curious about that one. I mean, think about Robert Hur, right? Remember Robert Hur, who was trying to do the whole, you know, prosecution vis-a-vis the FBI documents that were taken, and the FBI was like freaking out because they said, oh, these are top classified documents, and they were in Mar-a-Lago, and it turned out a lot of them were also in Joe Biden's garage next to his Corvette, right? Yeah, he was proud of that one. all locked up right next to the Corvette. Anyway, Hur decided that he couldn't actually move forward with any of the litigation because Joe Biden was too frail and too old and didn't sound like he knew what day it was, right? And we're sitting there going, whoa, wait a second, like he's running for president again? I mean, you can prosecute Trump, but you can't prosecute the guy that's president that did the exact same thing because what? Because he's never going to get a jury conviction because nobody thinks he knows what day it is, literally. That's how gone he was. And yet they wanted us to believe he was all that and more. Well, guess what? They're having some hearings over that one, right now on Capitol Hill. And 2 top Biden aides now are going to be testifying. They're set to testify in the probe of the Biden mental health decline. We heard from the doctor already. He's pleading the fifth. You know, he doesn't want to say boo. We heard from, Dr. Jill Biden, not a real medical doctor, a PhD in education. Gosh, it's got a killer what's going on with the Department of Education right about now. Anyway, Dr. Jill Biden, her chief of staff, Anthony Burnell, he was like the big bomb, right? Like he was like the guy. He may have been the guy that was running the whole country. And he also took the fifth. So none of them want to testify, but they're going to continually be questioned because, you know, you can't really have a country where America elects someone and then that person's not really running things. You can't have the wifey running it or the wifey's chief of staff or whoever was choosing to sign off on pardon after pardon after pardon. 8,000 of them in the final days. The only thing that actually got signed for real was Hunter's pardon. Go figure, after he promised us repeatedly he was never going to pardon his son. Unthinkable. Not happening. Was never going to do that. And yet he did. Of course he did. Of course he did. The Democrats are just looking at this and it's going from bad to worse. You got Reverend Al Sharpton having to confront these horrible polls in the Wall Street Journal. I mean, they're bad. They're bad. The worst they've been in 35 years, and none of it surprises me.
And speaking of polling, a new Wall Street Journal poll shows Democrats getting their lowest approval number among voters in 35 years, with Republicans outperforming them by nearly 20 points. How big of a red flag should this be for Democrats a year before the midterms? And what can they do to improve their perception among voters?
It's red everywhere, Rev, and it's not just a red flag.
Okay, so this girl goes on to say, here's the answer. Communism. We just need Memdami and more like Memdami, who might actually win, shockingly enough, in New York City. We just need more defund the police. We need to take all of your money and redistribute it so that the government has full control and power. We need more AOCs, more Mendamis, more like the guy they just got out there as a mayoral candidate in Minneapolis. This is where they're heading. It's not going to help them. You know, and they think maybe if we can just get, in enough podcasts, if we can just go out there into the conservative universe and spread our message of communism, that it will somehow ignite. I mean, this is the latest and greatest. We're just going to go on those bro podcasts, and that'll fix it all.
Molly, James Tallarico, your thoughts?
He's amazing, and he's doing a thing which I had been so trying to sort of say how important it was for such a long time, which is he is going to the place where the voters are, right? The only way to get in front of Joe Rogan's, millions, tens of millions and tens of millions of viewers is to go on his show. And that, I think, is so important. The other thing I would say,
she's basically admitting nobody watches MSNBC anymore. And so you can sit there on your MSNBC show and speak in your little bubble, but nobody actually hears it. It's kind of amazing. I was saying this to someone the other day. I actually get more viewers here on the Trish Regan Show on YouTube than I ever got in my cable career. And it's sort of like, it's mind-blowing, right? Like, it's just a whole different experience, and it's kind of cool because it's sort of a three-way thing where I can see what you guys are saying in real time, and there's a whole lot of authenticity in more ways than one. Thank you for all your patience, because you guys are truly, truly a patient team. But I think that you appreciate that authenticity, and I think, it goes both ways. So in the meantime, you've got these sort of staid cable networks where look, and it happens on both sides, right? Conservatives are going on to Fox because they feel safe there. You've got liberals going on to MSNBC and to CNN because they feel safe there, but they're not actually being heard by anybody else. They're just being heard by their own insular community. And that's not going to get them anywhere. But, I'm sorry, you kind of lost me when you turned to AOC and Mamdani and communism. Like, I don't think you're going to capture any of America with that. Been there, done that all around the world. And guess what? It's never worked. If any of you pick up a history book or maybe travel somewhere, you'd figure that out. Kamala Harris, however, Kamala Harris has presented a whole new problem for the Democrats, you see, because she wants to be back in the game for 2028. She has an opportunity to run for governor in California. She wouldn't get elected. She's not going to get elected anything. This woman can't get elected, okay? Like, she's not electable. She's not likable. She's not that smart. She can't actually speak on any of these podcasts because it would require her to have to speak for more than 10 minutes. Oh, gosh. No, we need like a nice little Today Show interview with scripted questions where it's no more than 5 to 6 minutes, and then you hit a commercial break, right? They're trying to do something like this would be a totally, totally different story for someone like Kamala Harris. But she's out there with a new book. They always come out with a new book. You got to make a few bucks along the way. God knows who's going to buy it. She's got a new book, and she's hoping to throw her hat back in the ring. This is her statement. If you ask me, this is not a statement that is made by somebody who is exiting politics altogether. Now, she still has her eyes on the prize. I'm sorry, Kamala Harris, you are not ever going to be elected to anything because you know what? No one likes you. And it has nothing to do with you being a woman or you being black and everything to do with you. People just don't like you. Sorry. It's kind of the prerequisite. I know not everybody likes Trump, but they kind of see him as having a little bit of a sense of humor. He's kind of self-deprecating. He doesn't laugh like a hyena. There's a few things that I might be working on with you, Kamala. If I had any interest in trying to help you, which I don't, but the laugh would be one. Here's Kamala's statement. Listen.
So former VP Kamala Harris, VP announces that she's not going to run for governor of California, said this in a statement. For now, my leadership and my public service will not be in elected office. I look forward to getting back out and listening to the American people, adding she will remain in the fight. The move already fueling speculation about a 28 presidential run. But is that what voters want? So we woke up, and it wasn't easy, Fox News contributor Guy Benson, and we said, Guy, would you please react to this? And your answer is, will you react?
Yeah, it's like, hey, please get up very early and talk about Kamala Harris. What a dream. It's a dream come true. Notice what she said in that statement. The first two words that you read were, for now. Right? It did not sound at all like...
Exactly. Because Kamala is just trying to bide her time. She wants to stay engaged in the fight. Except the Democrat Party doesn't really want her. That was made rather clear on the Democrat Party's shrine to all things Democrats, MSNBC, this morning. Watch.
Kamala Harris has announced she will not run for governor of California in 2026, ending part of the speculation surrounding her next steps. Sources close to Harris tell NBC News the former vice president gave the California race serious thought, but is, quote, looking to preserve her ability to launch a 2028 White House run should she choose to take that route. In a statement released yesterday, Harris writes in part, for now.
She's crazy. Think about the ego, you guys. Think about the insane wackadoo ego. After everything that happened, to think he even got a shot at anything in 2028. Oh my goodness gracious, it's worse than I thought. Here we go.
My leadership and public service will not be in elected office. I look forward to getting back out and listening to the American people, helping to elect Democrats across the nation who will fight fearlessly, and sharing more details in the months ahead about my own plans. So, Susan Page, not California for Kamala Harris, but she's certainly leaving the door open to a full presidential run, unlike the sort of truncated one she had last summer.
Yeah. The 2028 Democratic presidential nomination battle is like a full employment.
Oh, where she tried to back him into the corner. I was a little girl. And you know what? I was one of those little girls that was getting bussed, which, by the way, was completely debatable because she lived in Canada or something at the time. And she tried to take him down. Jill Biden never totally forgave her for that. It was so scripted. It was so calculated. And I'm like, wow, she's a nasty you-know-what. Okay? She's a nasty one. And she's bad. Like, she just is bad. Like, there's nothing endearing, nothing likable about her. Has nothing, again, I'm going to go back to this. Like, you don't have to be a guy. You don't have to be white. Like, none of that is anything I'm going to buy for 2 seconds. Because I firmly believe that you have the right woman with the right je ne sais quoi and the right kind of appeal. America's there. But Kamala Harris, she ain't it. And you know what? Hillary Clinton wasn't either. But, you know, she's going to run again. I'm like, bring it on. Hallelujah. You know what? We will take that one all day. Charlotte, good to see you here on the program. I'm going to get to your comment in a second. But first, let's take a look at our friend Scott Jennings, the only conservative who's willing to duke it out with all of those idiots on CNN every night. And he's agreeing with me. Hallelujah. Yeah, we need her to run. That would be a home run. Of course, I don't think she'd make it through the primary. She can't actually win elections.
I'm not convinced that she'll run in 2028 either. And I think as a party, Democrats have been trying to figure out what they represent, what they stand for, what moving forward looks like for them. And I've seen from a lot of leaders the recognition that you need to move somewhat to the center. They haven't done it completely, probably not fast enough on certain issues like Israel, for example. But I don't know if you would look back to the former vice president if you're trying to move to the center. I just don't see that.
Michael, you need to will this into existence. Here we go. My friend, my brother, I pray every day that these Democrats nominate Kamala Harris in 2028 again. And you're here down talking. I don't understand.
I just don't see it, Scott.
I need you to help me will this into existence. It would be the best for America. Democrats.
For our party.
It'd be great. It'd be great. You know what? Go ahead. Make my day. Nominate her. Well, I'll be very, very happy about it. I will say, though, here's the problem, right? You get these choices. You get like the old staid crowd that has been a disaster for the party, the Hillary Clintons of the world or the Kamala Harrises of the world, the Nancy Pelosi's, the Chuck Schumers. And then you get these radicals like AOC and Mamdani and everybody says, oh, you know, they're the future. No, they're not the future because I'm sorry, you had me at communism. You're out the door. All right. We're going to kick you right out the door because that's just not going to get anywhere. And so who are you going to go to? I mean, Nancy Pelosi, look at what she's done to the party. She herself personally, I mean, she's just been a train wreck, and it's coming to light now in more ways than one, you see, because they've got a new bill that they're trying to get through to prevent members of Congress from trading stocks, individual stocks, when they have inside knowledge about the industries and these companies. And, you know, Nancy Pelosi's husband, he's made a fortune. I mean, a fortune. She's one of the wealthiest women in the world. Why? Because Paul Pelosi, well, he's been trading for years. And somehow it's perfectly okay, given that she has all this inside information for her husband. Are you kidding me? To be out there trading? You don't think that he doesn't get wind of what she's hearing? Don't kid yourself. Anyway, Jake Tapper, who's trying to redeem himself every day, but let me tell you, it's going to be a long, long, long road to redemption for poor Jake. He decided to ask her about this. She's like, how dare you? This is CNN, for goodness sakes. Why are you going there? It's a pretty good moment. I want you to see it. Take a look.
Nancy Pelosi became rich.
Why do you have to read that? We're here to talk about the 60th anniversary of Medicaid. That's what I agreed to come to talk about.
Yeah, but I wanted
what that means in the election.
I wanted to give you a chance just to respond. He accused you of insider trading. What's your response to that?
That's ridiculous. In fact, I very much support the stop the trading of members of Congress. Not that I think anybody's doing anything wrong. If they are prosecuted and they go to jail. But because of the confidence it instills in the American people, don't worry about this. But I have no concern about the obvious investments that have been made over time. I'm not into it. My husband is, but it isn't anything to do with anything insider.
No, you would never do that, Nancy. I'm sure there's no possible way you would ever share any of the information that you're getting. I mean, it's really interesting when you look back to what was happening during March 2020 and how they all ran in to buy. What did they know was coming? Well, kind of what I predicted. That Donald Trump would sign a stimulus check and that the Federal Reserve would be there to hand out more money and that, before you knew it, everything would be hunky-dory and then we'd be dealing with other problems like inflation. Yeah, they kind of had an inkling. They all know. And so they're like these expert little traders on the side, like that's their side gig. And I'm like, how does that happen? I mean, as a journalist, I used to have to sign off and say I would not be trading stocks that I was talking about, which, by the way, I never did anyway. I never did because it was morally just so wrong. I remember once being on Bloomberg television early in my career, and I was talking about some very obscure biotech stocks. And no sooner had I gotten off the air that they had risen by a little bit. Well, they were very thinly traded, and I thought, wow, that's not good. That's actually really, really bad. And so just the perception of it is bad. I think about, my own family and my husband and working in the banking industry. Guess what? He's not allowed to trade individual stocks. Not without a whole lot of red tape. And yet members of Congress can? How does that happen? They're so worried, well, maybe he has inside information about this, that, and the other, so he's not allowed to trade an individual stock, and his family members are not allowed to trade individual stocks. I can trade ETFs, and obviously I have my picks on my individual stocks. Just take a look at 76research.com. You'll know exactly what I like. But when I want to buy one of those stocks, I have to go through hoops. I do. You know what? Because I'm married to someone who could possibly have inside information, and that is not allowed. And yet Nancy Pelosi, who clearly has inside information, is married to a guy who's trading off of it. You tell me how that is fair. It is not. It is wrong. And the reason why they're so careful with, say, bankers, people in the financial services industry on Wall Street, is because they love to regulate them. But they're not there ready, willing, and able to regulate themselves in any kind of way, shape, or form. So she's trying to say, well, why do you have to bring that up? And, come on, and I would never do that, and he would never do that. I'm sorry, Nancy, there is a very bad perception out there that, in fact, you do that, okay? Because you do have access to a lot of information. Your husband has made a lot of money, at times very interestingly so. Maybe it's just a coincidence. Maybe it's not. But these are things that need to be squared up. If we're going to have full faith and trust in our government, we need to get to that. We need to get to that part of everything. And by the way, the markets have been doing really well. If you have not signed up for my 76 Research, that's my company, my financial research company that I own together with a dear friend who's a brilliant, brilliant investor, I really do encourage you to go and look at this because we've just had enormous success. I'm looking at an S&P that's trading up about 0.5% today, a NASDAQ that's trading up a 1%, Dow pretty much flat. Donald Trump is giving Mexico a little bit more time and days. I think 90 days he's going to give Sheinbaum. She's no fan of his, but we're trying to work it out. And hey, we got something done with the EU. We got something done with Japan. It's all coming together. Mexico. Pull your act together. Canada, what you doing? Meanwhile, take a look at these 76 Research portfolio wins. You can see we have 3 different portfolios: American Resilience, Inflation Protection, and Income Builder. But if you don't get the portfolios, which I do encourage you to do, if nothing else, make sure you go and get the newsletter, 76research.com. We have a lot to tell you about GDP, which was a really good number, right? 3%, nothing to complain about there. I'm telling you, he is defying everyone. Like the naysayers that want to say, oh, there's no way that Donald Trump can pull this off. Guess what? He can. You know who else is defying the naysayers? That would be American Eagle. You see, they came out with a very daring campaign with Sydney Sweeney. They decided to actually use an attractive woman. Imagine that. That's how daring it was. In their new jeans commercial, and they're catching all kinds of fire for it. But I think it's an interesting moment to take a look at another company that was really dumb in how it approached its marketing, one Bud Light. Because it's kind of like the tale of two companies, the tale of two marketing specialists, one who was too smart for her own good, shall we say, who thought she knew better, and another, I don't know who runs marketing over at American Eagle, but whoever does really gets it. The libs are losing it totally over Sydney Sweeney and her cute jeans. You can see, and she's very, very cute. And, it's not that hard. You want to sell jeans to cute girls. You put a girl that's kind of aspirational in the jeans and suddenly they want to buy them. On the other hand, you want to sell beers and it's typically a male demo that's buying the beers and your answer is Dylan Mulvaney? I mean, again, we got one marketing person that gets it and another that does not. Here's the commercial that's wildly successful.
Composition often is determined by my genes, like hair color, personality, height, and even eye color. Eyes up here.
Sydney Sweeney has very jeans.
She does. You get it, right?
Should we be surprised that a company whose name is literally American Eagle is making fascist propaganda like this? Probably not, but it's still really shocking. Like, a blonde-haired, blue-eyed white woman is talking about her good genes. Like, that is Nazi propaganda.
Unbelievable. All right. Well, it's kind of turning into a meme stock. Like, it was a company that had sort of been forgotten about, and now people are looking at it and focusing on it. And you compare and contrast it with, say, AB InBev, which owns Bud Light. Whoa, that's not good. Sales are down 9%, declining volumes. Apparently, the demand is weak, like everywhere, not just in the U.S., but also China and Brazil. Like, nobody wants the beer anymore. I mean, maybe that's in part because nobody's really drinking beer as much anymore, but I think it's still very attributable to a very bad marketing campaign that just wouldn't stop, right? So the Dylan Mulvaney thing versus, say, Sydney Sweeney. And so this really is showing you like two different ways to approach marketing. And one of the funny things about this company is they're like doubling down. They're like, bring it on. And Sydney Sweeney, is like, bring it on. Like, you just dare, right? And I think it's actually making people love them more. I spoke to a friend actually this morning back in the New York area, and she went out, she's like my age, and she bought herself 2 pairs of jeans from American Eagle. She's like, I'm going to support the cause. Like, I'm in. It reminds me of like My Pillow. Remember when like something would happen with Mike Lindell and all of a sudden like pillow sales would go through the roof? It's a different way of marketing, but in some ways it is so brilliant compared and contrasted with the likes of what we saw with Bud Light. So really, I think that this company is going to get to live another day. I mean, heck, you even got Doja Cat. I know nobody knows who Doja Cat is. This came up because we played it yesterday and people are like, who is Doja Cat? I am so lucky I don't know who Doja Cat is. I was one of those people. And then maybe about 2 years ago, she came up in some context of a conversation and my kids informed me about Doja Cat. And then we did something, I think, on the show because she had some crazy costume at the Met Gala. Anyway, Doja Cat, nothing to look at. If you can even see her, I'm like, I don't even know what she really looks like because she's one of those chameleons that has a different hair color all the time and seems to be a different size all the time and is just, looking very weird all the time. That's the one little bit of consistency. Anyway, here she is trying to pretend she's some kind of hillbilly, talking about her jeans and trying to imitate one Sydney Sweeney. Let me just tell you, honey bunny, Doja Cat, you are no Sydney.
Genes are passed down from parents to offspring, often determining traits like hair color, personality, and even eye color. My genes are blue.
Your jeans are blue. Great. So that's the joke about that, apparently, because, she's talking about her jeans, and she's talking about, her jeans, her blue jeans being blue. I want to read something that Cat Crazy, who's on the channel all the time, says. Let me get to your comment here. Let me see if I can put it on the screen. It's a little tricky. There we go. Here, I'm going to put it back up here. There we go. They're going crazy because Sweeney, they just realized that they've been told over and over the last 4 years were lies, right? The actual bar of beauty hasn't changed. It's true. It's really doesn't change as drastically as some would like to think. I mean, I do realize that they tried a different style of campaign back in 2019, and it wasn't necessarily the most healthy looking campaign, shall we say. And you know what? It didn't work. The company was frankly in the toilet, and the sales have not been good, and the company's up against it. And so they decided they were just going to take a chance. And they want that Midwestern, middle American audience. They want those young girls. And so what did they do? They put a hot young girl right onto the ad. And what do you know? Things are looking up for this company. So I think that, case in point, you don't need to overthink this stuff. It's not that hard. Beauty's beauty. Beauty usually has something to do with health and fitness because, we're all looking to procreate, right? At some point, if you're looking to procreate, you want to be able to procreate and have a healthy child, et cetera. Again, it's not like, I don't have to explain all to you guys. I think you get it. I'm just looking for Charlotte's comment here because she said something earlier that I wanted to get to. Anyway, I'm going to keep looking for that here as we continue our show here. But I just think that this is a fascinating story, a tale of two different companies, two very, very different companies. In the meantime, we got a great thing going on here in the US of A, do we not? I mean, Donald Trump managing to deliver 3% GDP growth. We see the consumer spending is still coming in strong. The Federal Reserve actually chose not to move on interest rates, although you had two people that dissented and said, maybe we ought to be doing something right now. I can hear and see the rain behind me. I see rain in front of me. I see rain behind me. You guys probably can't see it because I realize the windows are getting a little bit blown out in this shot, but it's coming down hard. Of course, makes sense where I am right now, still in Ireland. It is wonderful to see all of you here on this show today. Again, at a slightly earlier time. I'm going to be back tomorrow to talk with you just a little bit more about all of this. I think that we can't get away from this story. I cannot get away from this story in terms of everything that's going on vis-a-vis Tulsi, vis-a-vis Brennan, vis-a-vis Obama, vis-a-vis Comey, and what's coming next. It's a very, very important time. Thank you so much for tuning in, and we will discuss again right here live tomorrow.